Today on Lyrics to Go, I celebrate the red, the white, and the blue with a hot god kicker of an episode about freedom of mother speech. You big holes. Lyrics to Go. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to blah, 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 blah. As we all know, or as we all should know, American history hasn't quite gone that way, and free speech has been a highly contested issue in that country. So today I want to count down my top 12 songs about free speech. Most of them are by American bands. Let's get into it.
We think it's the banning of free speech.
First up is a song by a Miami rap group who found themselves in the late 80s and early 90s at the center of one of the biggest free speech controversies ever in popular music. And that, of course, is 2 Live Crew. Now, 2 Live Crew rose to fame / infamy on the strength of their single Me So Horny off the album As Nasty As They Wanna Be. The song I've chosen by 2 Live Crew is not actually from that album. It's from the aftermath, the backlash to that album. And the song is called Banned in the USA. And 2 Live Crew were indeed banned. They were banned from performing in various states and were prosecuted for doing so, for performing Me So Horny and other sexually explicit songs. And so all of a sudden, it became a very serious free speech issue.
We've got white collar people trying to crap our style, saying we're too nasty and we're too live. Corrupted politicians playing games, bringing us down to boost their fame. They must.
And that's a really good line. I mean, it really points out the hypocrisy of many of these politicians who in public, really try to rise to fame on the strength of these moral crusades. The second verse by rapper Brother Marquise has a very good opening line. The First Amendment gave us freedom of speech. So what you saying? It didn't include me? I mean, that really cuts to the heart of it. I really like the last 5 lines of this stanza. You can't stand to see a brother get as rich as you.
We're gonna do all the things we wanna do. You can't stand to see a brother get as rich as you. This is the 90s and we're coming on strong, saying things and doing things that you're saying's wrong. Wising up, cause on election day, we'll see who's banned in the USA.
Now, it's a great threat of, getting back at these draconian right-wing politicians at the ballot box.
And now for something completely different.
At number 11, we have an Austrian extreme metal band called The Sorrow, and the song is called Illusion of Freedom.
Wrong!
Okay, I completely got this wrong. Apparently there's a band called The Sorrow, which is the Austrian extreme metal band, but they're from like the last 10, 15 years. And then there's this other band, I have no idea who they are or where they're from, but they're just called Sorrow, and they're like a doom metal band from, the early 1990s. But I think this song is just great. And it's the combination somehow of this very guttural, extreme musical sound and these lyrics, which are quite almost intellectual.
Freedom of speech exists if what you say is something by majority. What will we lose? That right when they're part of a minority.
Now, most of the lyrics don't rhyme, but this stanza does, and I like it a lot. If one's ideas pose no threat, they are the ones to succeed. Monetary backing they will get by the claws of corporate greed. Now, if this was a poetry assignment in an English as a second language class, I'd give this an A+.
Freedom of speech occurs when all ideas are given equal viewing to the general public.
It's very lyrical, isn't it?
Now what's really known as a radio cut when you can't say shit and you can't say fuck.
Next up, we have the first of 3 songs titled Freedom of Speech. They're all hip-hop songs. This one's by the LA rap group Above the Law. I never really knew them, but I did know this song pretty well because it was on one of my favorite soundtracks, Pump Up the Volume, with Christian Slater.
So I don't really find it exactly cheerful to be living in a totally, exhausted decade where there's nothing to look forward to and no one to look up to.
I really think you want to hear it, but the radio station, you see, they still gonna fear it. Yo, I thought this country was based upon freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of your own religion to make your own decision. That's baloney, because if I gotta play by your rules, I'm being phony.
There's a great line here that's great in terms of its meaning, but also the way it's delivered is incredible. Just the rhythmic flow on this. I don't even know if I can do justice to it or replicate it, because violence is something that happens in society when people are living low and don't know where they can go. So what he's pointing out is that, you want to complain about violence in rap lyrics. Well, why don't you do something about the social conditions that create it? But listen rhythmically to how he delivers this line.
Because violence is something that happens in society when people are living low and don't know where they can go.
That's really cool.
Sorry if you take offense. We made up rules and played pretend. We know you fear change. It's something so strange, but nothing's gonna get in our way.
Next, I have a song called From the Heart by a group that bills themselves the world's first Asian American dance rock band. And they're called the Slants. This is a group from Portland, Oregon. Now, what this band is probably most famous for is their Supreme Court case. Yes, that's right. A case was taken to the Supreme Court by the US Trademark Office, looking to bar this group from trademarking their band name on the grounds that the Slants is a slur against people of Asian descent. And what the band argued was, yeah, and we're well within our rights to do that. We are reappropriating this term. And the Supreme Court agreed because the Slants won their case unanimously. Musically and lyrically, this band has a very sincere approach. And the lyrics mix that sincerity with some real defiance and victory here. Sorry if our notes are too sharp. Sorry if our voice is too raw. Don't make the pen a weapon and censor our intelligence until our thoughts mean nothing at all. And I'm a sucker for pre-choruses, and this song has one, which leads into a very, very catchy chorus.
There's no room for your backwards feelings and backyard dealings. We're never gonna settle, never gonna settle. No, we won't remain silent. No, it's hard to find a moment. We sing from the heart. We sing from the heart.
They also speak about reappropriation itself. Sorry if we try too hard to take some power back for ours. The language of oppression will lose to education until the words can't hurt us again. And that, I take it, is the entire idea behind reappropriating hurtful, bigoted language.
Freedom of speech, motherfucker.
At number 8, we have our second of 3 songs titled Freedom of Speech. This one's by the Peruvian-American rapper Immortal Technique. Now, Immortal Technique is not only a rapper, he's a fiercely independent businessman, he's an activist and an organizer. He's very political. And the most fun and distinctive thing about it is the chorus, which samples a childhood friend of all of ours.
Okay. Something for the kids.
So the song is mainly about his decision to stay independent and the rationale for that.
I guess to America, I'm a disaster. A slave that was destined to own his masters. Independent in every single sense of the word. I say what I want, you fucking little sensitive herb. This is America.
And of course, Immortal Technique is never afraid to name names. And here he goes after one of his Fox News nemesis.
And O'Reilly, you think you a patriot? Yeah, right. You ain't nothing but a motherfucking racist bitch.
And another fantastic couplet would be trying to minimize the issue, but I'm keeping it large. I love the place that I live, but I hate the people in charge. Amen to that. The next song is called Quiet. It's by the LA artist MILCK, M-I-L-C-K, whose real name is Connie Lim. Now, she wrote this song in 2015, but when it really became a national sensation was after the Women's March in January 2017, right after Trump was elected, a few months after the Harvey Weinstein bombshells started coming out, and it really struck a chord. 'Cause no one knows. what MILCK is talking about here is a different kind of curtailing of speech, which is much more insidious and subtle. And she's speaking about the pressures that women face to suppress their authentic selves. So that starts right from the very first lyric. Put on your face, know your place, shut up and smile, don't spread your legs. None of them are saying we're going to censor you, or you can't say this, or you can't say that, but they are suppressing a person's right to be themselves, which includes to express themselves. Also, what's cool is that the song starts with those four very oppressive statements, but then it leaves them behind. The rest of the song is a vow of self-expression, a vow of courageous defiance. But nobody knows me, no one ever will. If I don't say something, if I just lie still, would I be that monster, scare them all away if I let them hear what I have to say? So those are the deliberations that go on inside, right? Do I have what it takes to speak up and sing out and speak my truth? And the chorus answers that in no uncertain terms.
I can't keep quiet, no. One more minute riot, no.
It's very moving and inspirational. At number 6, we have one of my favorite songs from high school. Definitely my favorite Guns N' Roses song. It's a deep cut off Use Your Illusion 1 from 1991. It's called Don't Damn Me. And looking at the lyric now, I can see it's kind of a hot mess. I still really enjoy it. It's Axl Rose kind of in all of his messy splendor. He's petulant, he's plaintive, he's vulnerable, he doesn't give a fuck, and he's letting us inside his thought process here. Be it a song or a casual conversation, to hold my tongue speaks of quiet reservations. Your words once heard, they can place you in a faction. My words may disturb, but at least there's a reaction. Two more parts of this song that I really love. There's this bridge where everything kind of slows down before it picks up again. Then comes, I think, the most glorious part of the song, where he actually flips the whole thing. The song is about don't damn me when I speak a piece of mind. Well, here he says, in some ways, the inverse.
Don't hail me and don't idolize the ego I failed in my intentions. Can you find the missing link? Your own validation isn't living your own life. Vicarious existence is a fucking waste of time.
So he's talking to his fans here. That's where I learned the word vicarious.
Forgive sounds good. Forget, I'm not sure I could.
All right, we're hitting the top 5. This is called Not Ready to Make Nice, and it's by the band formerly known as the Dixie Chicks. In 2003, during the early days of the Iraq War, Natalie Maines, the lead singer and most famous member of the Dixie Chicks, on stage at a concert in London, told the crowd that we are not proud of our president, and please don't equate all people, all Americans, with the government who is committing this huge crime. They were blacklisted from many country music stations. They got death threats. I mean, they basically became personae non grata in the country world, despite the fact that they were one of the biggest and most talented trios in the entire music industry. And they were pressured to apologize, but instead of doing that, they came out a couple of years later with this lead-off single from their next album. And there's an interesting parallel to the MILCK song. Here we have 2 songs by female artists, and they're more personal than the ones by men who sort of go into the politics of it, and they make sort of legal arguments or big, bold, defiant statements about society in general. This one is in the first person, right? Forget, I'm not sure I could. They say time heals everything, but I'm still waiting. I'm through with doubt. And like the MILCK song, it starts off with 4 lines that are kind of questioning, or at least that are disempowering. And then the lyric changes gears and gets into a very empowered mode. And that kind of sticks around for the rest of the song. I love the way she gets into the first chorus. There's a really nice internal rhyme, which I'm just a sucker for.
I've paid a price, and I'll keep paying. I'm not ready to make nice. I'm not ready to back down. I'm still mad as hell, and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to make it right. I probably wouldn't if I could, 'cause I'm mad as hell, can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
And keep in mind what I just said about the song switching into an empowered gear once and for all after the first few lines. If we take a look at the second verse, something very interesting starts to happen. See if you can spot it and see what's different from the first verse.
In my bed and I sleep like a baby with no regrets, and I don't mind saying it's a sad, sad story when a mother will teach her daughter that she ought to hate a perfect stranger. And how in the world can the words that I said send somebody so over the edge that they'd write me a letter saying that I better shut up and sing or my life will be over.
Okay, so number one, this is where she finally addresses the controversy in much more specific terms. Shut Up and Sing was basically the message that the country music world was telling them, just like, conservative elements in society tell athletes like Colin Kaepernick to shut up and play. So that's the content. But notice what happens in terms of the pacing of the lyrics in the second verse. Recall that in the first verse, it was very sparse. Forgive, sounds good, forget, I don't know that I could. But here she starts packing in more and more words, and the pace is picking up, which creates this incredible sense of momentum. Last thing to note about this song is there's a touch of Howard Beale in it, and I really like that.
I'm still mad as hell. I'm still mad as
Stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
Doesn't matter what you see, or do it what you read. You can do it your own way, if it's done just how I say.
Number 4 is a song I've loved for a long time. It's by one of my favorite bands, Metallica, and it's called Eye of the Beholder. I think it's got some great, witty, and pointed observations about freedom of speech and the way it's weaponized. I also like the way that James Hetfield, who's the singer, rhythm guitarist, and main lyricist of Metallica, he takes a popular Christmas song and borrows one of the lyrical devices from it and uses it throughout this lyric.
Do you hear what I hear?
Do you hear what I hear? Do you feel what I feel? Do you fear what I fear? Do you choose what I choose? Do you need what I need? Do you trust what I trust?
It's a very tight lyrical form. Do you see what I see? Truth is an offense. You silence for your confidence. Not quite sure what that means. Do you hear what I hear? Doors are slamming shut. Limit your imagination. Keep you where they must. And as with many songs from this era of Metallica, there's a change in the time signature. It goes from a straight 4/4 beat to what's known as 12/8, which you can still hear 4 beats, but each of them is subdivided into 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. He does another thing here that he often does. From the verse to the pre-chorus, he switches up who is speaking. So the verses are autobiographical, you could say. They're sort of James Hetfield's voice, his perspective. He's decrying censorship. But all of a sudden in the pre-chorus, the I becomes someone in power. You can do it your own way if it's done just how I say. And then in the chorus, which goes back to the straight 4/4 beat, he switches back to his own voice, Independence Limited. There's a strong libertarian streak in this song. You sense his desire to set his own agenda, his own rules. It's less about us and our collective right to express ourselves. It's about me and the right to live the way I want to live. Do you want what I want? Desire not a thing. I hunger after independence. Strengthen freedom's ring. That's very libertarian. Same thing with the lines, do you need what I need? Boundaries overthrown. Look inside, to each his own. Do you trust what I trust? Me, myself, and I. Penetrate the smokescreen. I see through the selfish lie. But my favorite line of the song is the very last one. Freedom of choice is made for you, my friend. Freedom of speech is words that they will bend. Freedom no longer frees you. That is great, and that is grim.
Freedom of speech! Yeah. Just watch what you say.
At number 3, we have the third of our freedom of speech titled songs. And this one I think is by the most gifted MC of the bunch. It's Ice-T. And this is his song, which was essentially the title track off of his album, Freedom of Speech, Just Watch What You Say. Now, of course, Ice-T was at the center of a major controversy over his song Cop Killer with his heavy metal group, Body Count. But this song comes out a couple of years before Cop Killer. And even in 1989, Ice-T is already going after the PMRC, which is Tipper Gore's Parental Music Resource Center, which was very much at the heart of a lot of this moral panic over what are our kids listening to. And he just comes out of the gate with an absolute bang.
Freedom of speech, that's some motherfucking bullshit. You say the wrong thing, they'll lock your ass up quick. The FCC says profanity, no airplay. They can suck my dick while I take a shit all day. Think I give a fuck?
It's the second part of that last line that really seals the deal. There's a great line where he calls them alcoholic idiots. And he says, can't you see, you alcoholic idiots? The more you try to suppress us, the larger we get. It's a very good point. Many of these albums rose in the charts as a result of the parental advisory sticker. So he really kind of throws that back in their face. What I like about this song is his argument is multifaceted. It's kind of Later, he says, let them censor books, let them censor art, PMRC. This is where the witch hunt starts. And this is a point that Noam Chomsky has made many times, which is that if you really believe in freedom of speech, you have to believe in it most for speech that you detest. Otherwise, it's meaningless. Jay.
The table, all you want, I won't shut up. I won't shut up.
At number 2, we have just an incredible song by Fiona Apple, and it comes from last year's release, Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Came out in April of last year, at the very beginning of quarantine. And what's very interesting about this album is it kind of sounds like it was recorded in quarantine. And in fact, she recorded most of it, I believe, in her house. Over a 5-year period. And it has a kind of claustrophobic, but also exuberant sound to it. So someone who is busting out of being locked in. Remember I mentioned the 12/8 time signature in the Metallica song? Well, Fiona Apple is the queen of 12/8. She has many, many songs in this meter, and she's very good at setting lyrics to them. You hear how, you know, da-ga-da-da-ga-da.
I told you I didn't want to go to this dinner. You know I don't go for those ones that you bother about. So when they say something that makes me start to simmer, that fancy wine won't put this fire out.
It's got a fantastic chorus.
Keep me under the table all you want. I won't shut up. I won't shut up.
Now, remember how I said that the song by MILCK has a different angle on censorship because it's talking about societal pressure. Well, this song is even more intimate. Fiona Apple's talking about social pressure, like in a social circle at a dinner party between friends or casual acquaintances. I'd like to buy you a pair of pillow-soled hiking boots to help you with your climb, or rather to help the bodies that you step over along your route so they won't hurt like mine. There aren't too many more lyrics to this song. There's like a bridge section where she says, and if I don't want to go, leave me alone, don't push me.
If I don't want to go, leave me alone, don't push me. me, cookie, don't push me, don't you push me. If you get me to go and I open my mouth to the fucking mutton that they're talking about, you can pout, but don't you shush me.
In addition to being a perfect rhyme pair, don't you push me and don't you shush me in a song about free speech in the social context, it's also just very audacious to say, don't you shush me in a lyric. And it works great, especially with the delivery. But yeah, I think the main reason I rate this song so highly is because of that hook.
I would beg to disagree, but begging disagrees with me.
I mean, that's just one of the greatest lyrics I've ever heard.
So I'd like to make a promise and I'd like to make a vow that when I've got something to say, sir, I'm gonna say it now.
Okay, number one. And here we are going back to a classic free speech song, and it's explicitly so. It's a protest number by a very political folk singer, Phil Ochs. I've mentioned him in a previous episode, I believe. Really beautiful singer and really great songwriter. He chooses one hook, which is the fourth line of every stanza. When I've got something to say, sir, I'm going to say it now. And what that means is that the third line of every stanza has to end with the sound so that it rhymes. And Phil Ochs is just a master of this. He knows how to set up a hook very well.
Oh, I am just a student, sir, and only want to learn. But it's hard to read through the rising smoke from the books that you like to burn. So I'd like to make a promise and I'd like to make a vow that when I've got something to say, sir, I'm gonna say it now.
And Phil Ochs always has a very appealing, witty, sardonic kind of humor to his lyrics. Oh, you've given me a number and you've taken off my name. To get around this campus, why, you almost need a plane. And then a very explicitly far left message to end the stanza.
And you're supporting Chiang Kai-shek while I'm supporting Mao. So when I've got something to say, sir, I'm gonna say it now.
I mean, that's gutsy enough to rhyme Mao with now, just strictly on a lyrical level. I think it's pretty audacious. My favorite stanza comes in the middle.
Ooh, you'd like to be my father, you'd like to be my dad, and give me kisses when I'm good and spank me when I'm bad. But since I left my parents, I've forgotten how to bow. So when I've got something to say, sir, I'm gonna
There is a kind of paternalistic psychology to a lot of these draconian politicians wanting to control people. And he's basically saying, dude, I left home a couple of years ago. And there's another verse that drives that point home of, hey, we're grown adults here. And it also indicates a kind of solidarity. It's like, look, I'm not alone. He says, and things, they might be different if I was here alone, but I've got a friend or two who no longer live at home, and we'll respect our elders just as long as they allow that when I've got something to say, sir, I'm going to say it now. A very strong statement of, honor your elders, respect your elders. Well, that presumes that it's flowing in the other direction to begin with. Okay, that does it for my top 12 free speech songs. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have. If so, please exercise your right to express yourself by clicking like, by sharing this video, and please subscribe to this channel. You can also go even further and support my expression on this channel by going to patreon.com/lyrics2go, becoming a member. You can get extra bonus content, custom playlists for every episode, and a whole bunch more great perks. So I hope you'll check that out. Until next time, I'm Daniel Maté saying, I've got lyrics to go and the right to say whatever the fuck I want as long as it doesn't materially harm another human being. And now you do too.
Mama don't allow no guitar playing here. Now Mama don't allow no guitar playing here. And I don't care what Mama don't allow, gonna play that guitar anyhow. Mama don't allow no guitar playing here. Carl Perkins.
Raise your hands high. Don't take a seat, don't stand aside. This time, don't assume anything.
Go, go, go. Speech. Freedom to say, freedom to think this is my lucky day. Freedom. These 7 words you're trying to take. 6 folks think that sex drug rape. Right or wrong, it's not choice for me. America the beautiful, land of the free. Don't use the words, the land of hypocrisy.
And so our people spelled it out, the things that we should be. And they put those principles down on paper and called it the Constitution. And it's been helping us run our country ever since then.
Now let's not overlook the fact that we're still in reach. You got a chance to make it, and you got a freedom of speech. Say what you wanna, tell them how you feel.